Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy and the new special counsel report on Joseph Biden that presents new evidence that actually brushes up against, in my humble opinion, the truth we all knew, and somewhat puts it into the government record. All right. So what happened recently? Let's talk about it. And this is absolutely relevant to Vivek Ramaswamy. And I'll explain that at the end. All right, or near the end. All right, let's go. So what happened this week? All right, so first of all, last week we got a special counsel report on, so the government tasked the Justice Department and said, hey, we think President Biden took classified documents to his Delaware home. And by the way, I'm actually getting this from Channel 5 News from Delaware. This is what I understood of their reporting. All right, so they said that that's my source for this. And this is my understanding of what they stated. If I get any of this wrong, tell me in the comments below. Let's correct it together. All right. So what did they say? They said the U.S. government Justice Department was tasked officially to do an investigation on whether Joseph Biden, he wasn't actually President Joseph Biden. You're president even when your term is done. People forget that, but that is the case. Once you're a president, you are always a president. You're even a president when you're dead, right? But did he take classified documents to his Delaware home when he was a private citizen, when he was no longer serving as president, when he just had the title? He wasn't actually authoritatively the president. He was just president by title, right? So, and at that point, he would not have first of all, he wouldn't have been able to take these classified documents to his own private residence, I don't think, even if he had been president, right? So basically, there's a potential that he was law breaking when he moved the documents because he's putting them in a position where they're more easily attainable by American enemies. So he didn't have the right to move these documents to where he moved them to. And he didn't have, and he certainly didn't have the right because he wasn't president by authority. He was president by title because he wasn't president. He wasn't a serving president at the moment, right? So that's a significant amount of law. Like, you can go to prison for that, right? Like, if all those things are true, right? So the government, U.S. government says, Justice Department, get to work, right? Justice Department does the investigation and comes back, yep, he totally did it. And they're like, oh, and all the Republicans were like, fantastic. When do we get to put him in jail, right? And he's like, you don't get to put him in jail. Why? Well, if we put him on stand, if we criminally charge him, he will present as a sympathetic. These are literally the words. I can't believe I'm saying this. This is what the special report said. If we try to criminally charge him, he'll slip it, right? And here's the literal words, because he'll simply present as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with poor memory. That's a fascinating statement. So I want to be super clear. No one put into the record that President Biden is an elderly man with poor memory. Okay? They said that he could present as such. First of all, which do you think is more likely? That 80-year-old President Biden, who cannot get through a sentence most days, right, is presenting as an elderly man with poor memory, or that he is an elderly man with poor memory, and that the special counsel said that he was presenting because he didn't want to lose his job and never get a job again because he criminally charged the Democrat president who was in power. Which one of those do you think is correct? I have an opinion on it. Yeah, come on, all right, so a lot of people were really upset with this report, and I think legitimately this report is absolute garbage, right? You can't be like, yep, totally committed the crime, and the reason we can't is because they're holding a puppy, so we're not going to be able to get them. We're not. They'll slip the noose, and what's the point of going through all the trouble if they have that puppy, and they'll totally not be held up responsible for their criminal actions? And you're like, are you kidding? Is this literally all anybody has to do is just hold a puppy in their hand, and now they're sympathetic and well-meaning, and they don't have to be charged with crimes? It's this how the Justice Department handles crimes now? It seemed like it's really easy to get away with crimes now under the U.S. Justice Department. This is bonkers. Okay, so what's this got to do with Vivek Ramaswamy? Well, so first of all, you and I are smarter than this, right? Like we know, President Biden is not presenting as an elderly man with a poor memory. He is an elderly man as with poor memory, right? Like, and we have the courage to say that, unlike the special counsel, right? Like because we don't have the stakes that they have, right? In my humble opinion, okay? All right, so first of all, let's get that out of the way, okay? Now here's the kicker. We are working very hard right now. I'm doing it, you're doing it, to make Vivek Ramaswamy the vice presidential pick of Donald Trump. And the reason why is, guess what happens the second he is president? He will be an elderly man with poor memory, right? And one of the things that was very clear, in my humble opinion, from the special report is that elderly men with poor memory are outrageously dangerous to the safety of the nation because they will routinely take classified documents and put them where they don't know they are, where the hands of American enemies can get them and use them to strike us. NW, next day. This gerontocracy experiment that the Democrats have chosen to run is an outrageous, ridiculous failure. We all know it. Everybody in the world knows it. The press openly discusses it every single day. That's the domestic press. The international press mocks us for not having a capable, clear leader, right? Like a leader who has mental acuity that there's not a question mark behind, right? This is an open discussion at this point, right? We as Americans deserve sound leadership by people who are not elderly men with poor memory. We deserve leadership by a young person who has rock solid memory and knows exactly where every classified document they've ever looked at is. We deserve it, right? And we can get it. We can get it. All we need to do, right, is make Vivek Ramaswamy the vice president of the specific elderly man with poor memory that we want, that is willing to make our vice presidential pick his vice presidential pick, right? The reality is we're toast on day one of this next election. It doesn't matter who wins, right? In that we are going to get an elderly man with poor memory. The question then is who has the best backup plan? And trust and believe Vivek Ramaswamy is a better backup pick than Kamala Harris, right? Without question. The candidate whose numbers are worse than an elderly man with poor memory. Like everybody knows President Biden is an elderly man with poor memory, and they're like, oh, still don't want Kamala Harris as president. Right? Like, no, thank you. Like, it's astounding that her numbers are worse. Because if they were better, he just sat down and let her run. But they know Kamala will get crushed in the general. Right? She won't even make it through the primary, I don't think. It's really something. Vivek Ramaswamy, got to get him in as the VP because Republicans are going to be putting an elderly man with poor memory in. And now we know, according to the special report, that's outrageously dangerous. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing and have a fetch millennium.